Okay, then we will just keep going on. And you are next to read.
About his vision, future, and that he had come from God and was returning to God.
You see, Jesus is talking about why he is able to be a servant leader. We have seen he was secure. He knew all things under him. He's not in competition. He's not suffering from insecurity. But then he says, I also know where I'm from and where I'm going. Because if you don't know that, you'll not be a servant leader. When you think that everything is hanging around your current job, you don't have a long-term view, you are going to have a lot of challenges in that. But Jesus is saying, I know where I've come from. I know where I'm going. If you understand who you are, understand the things that God has given you, and I'll keep referring to this the whole day. You need to understand who you are. Understand yourself. Once that is clear to you, you will be the kind of a person who is clear about your future. But then you saw on the earlier note, I talked about God confidence rather than self-confidence. A lot of people keep telling you, hey, have self-confidence. And you look at them and do they even know me? If they knew me, they would know I'm not worth having confidence in. So I never tell people to have self-confidence. I don't even know them. How can I tell them to trust themselves? Maybe they're not even trustworthy. But if they can be God confident. There's a big difference between self-confidence and God confidence. God confidence is that God who created you with all your weaknesses and traits is the one who will take you on in the future. And you are confident he will not let you down. It doesn't matter your weaknesses, you are sure God has something in your life which he hopes to achieve. And because you are not trusting yourself, you don't look at yourself. You know, not too long ago, I was doing a consultancy in Central African Republic, and one of the tasks was to train the cabinet of the country. As I sat next to the Prime Minister, I thought, if you came to Javini, I come from a village called Javini, and I was growing up. If he knew where I came from, he would not allow me to talk to him. He would not allow me to even, because you say you are the way you come. They assume, and I know that when I talk to them from Javini, wow, they assume I must come from somebody important. So when I tell them, you can't know my mother, can't know me, you can't know us, we don't. Are you sure? Because they think I must be son of somebody important. Have you experienced that? People want to box you according to your parents' history. Not understanding that you are created unique. I make people laugh when I tell them that the place where people get babies is called, what do you call the room? You are the hospital. What do you call the room where people get babies? Delivery room, isn't it? Now that's a very good name you have given to the hospital. Delivery room. Why? It reminds the mother she is not the owner of the baby. She only delivered. That's why it's called a delivery room. So that child is not your child. It's only God used to use you as a delivery system. The child belongs to God. And since you are the people who have the science of genetics, you know that there are something called recessive genes. Am I right? That means you and your wife do not have the genes of your son because they are the genes of the grandfather that never operated in you that have now come out the grandson. Am I repeating correctly? Recessive genes. That something, that's why a child can look like the grandfather more than the father. Am I right? Now, that means the child is not like you. Although you are biological, the DNA is clear. You are the father, you are the mother. But God brought other genes to make your son. So your son is not you. Your daughter is not you. God made them specifically. When you understand that, you understand that your parents weaknesses and strength don't have to be your weaknesses and strength. You are unique. That's why Acts chapter 13, if you are Christians, Acts chapter 13, verse 6 talks about David. And it says when David had fulfilled God's purpose for his generation. What is that saying? That David did not fulfill Jesse's purpose. He fulfilled God's purpose. And I'm still on that, happening on that thing of gaining God confidence rather than self-confidence. It's understanding that God has created you for a reason. You don't even have to be like your parents at all. There is something you want to accomplish. And what you want to accomplish is not necessarily your parents. That's why parents ruin children when they are trying to force a child to be who they are. You know, you are a doctor, then you want your child also to become a doctor. Thinking, in fact, they misquote the verse. In Proverbs 22 is saying that bring up the child the way they should go. And when they are old, they will not depart from it. There are people interpret that to mean bring the child the way you want. No, that's not what the Bible is saying. They bring up the child the way God wants them to be. So it is you as a parent, you should be finding out what are the gifts in this child. And even if they are different from yours, allow them to flourish the way God has called them. After all, you only delivered them. You don't own them. So all that I'm saying is that for you to be a good supervisor, you must come to where you have God confidence rather than self-confidence. When you have self-confidence and you know your weaknesses, you cover them up by fighting your subordinates, isn't it? If you are stammering, if they start mentioning anything about stammering, you come on them like a ton of bricks. Tell them, call the class, tell them it's true, I stammer. But you still get what I said, isn't it? And I'll even put it in writing in case you didn't hear properly. So stammering does not define you. Am I communicating? So you need to come to where you are sure who you are. Many of us, if we relied on where we came from, if I relied on coming from Javini, I don't think I would be anything. The day I discovered that where I come from, who my parents are, is totally irrelevant to what God wants me to achieve. It leads me to hear God's voice and obey it. I know where I'm coming from, but more importantly, I know where I am going. I've written a book called Discovering Your Life's Purpose. And for you to be the kind of a person who can be a servant leader, you need clarity on what God wants you to achieve in life. So I really encourage you to be, if you want to know mine, just go to my website. My website is www.johnganga.org. And you can find out what my vision, my mission, my purpose in life is. It's important to clarify, because that in the process allows you to have clarity of where you are coming from and where you are going. So when you are clear where you are going, your subordinates do not threaten you. You are able to assist them. You are not the center. You don't require their help. It's you that needs to help them. Why? Because you yourself feel you are okay in God, so you can actually help them. So really we are saying a leader must be sure about his vision, about the future. Jesus knew that he was on earth temporarily and he is actually going to heaven. So this pilot, I know it will be painful, but it's temporary thing. I die and go back to my Father. And that way you are allowed to face every threat. When you realize how temporary the threat actually is. Next, read that. I can see people in cottage are not blessed with loud voices. Try to be louder.
Leader purchased his tea practically, so he got up from the meal, took off his outer clothing, and wrapped a towel around his waist. After that, he poured water into a basin and began to wash his disciples' feet, drying them with a towel that was wrapped around him. He came to Simon Peter, who said to him, "Lord, are you going to wash my feet?" Jesus replied, "Do not visualize now what I'm doing, but later you will understand."
Now, here we are saying, if you really are going to be a good servant leader, you participate in the work of the people. A good leader is not nyapara. Ever heard of the term nyapara? He just stands on a big seat and says, hey, did you do it? What happens? My suggestion to you, for you to be a good supervisor, you cannot be an expert in what your subordinates do. Because obviously they are doing it all the time. And maybe you have 4 people doing 4 different things. You can't be good in all the 4. But you must know what all the 4 are involved in. And when I joined Sheriff, I found the best thing is, give them the privilege of training me. I'm a whole graduate, they are not graduates. And I just sit there, and this one, how do you do it? And this one, you can see how they go and talk. Do you know that new graduate? We were teaching him. It's true. But a lot of people don't want to be said that. In order to avoid that, they continue being fools. Now, it's much wiser to agree you are their boss, but they actually know better than. So you sit there, they teach you, and then you say, is this what you said? Yes. You know something? After some time, they are doing the same work, then they do it wrongly. So you ask them, but I thought you told me you do it like this. How come it is like? It really embarrasses them. Because I thought the teacher failing, isn't it? They're your teacher. In fact, you even say it outly. By the way, this one I was taught by karaoke. I taught you. But what you do is in the process, you are holding them to a higher standard, isn't it? Because teachers must be better, isn't it? So if you taught me, I'm not supervising you. I'm only coordinating you. You know better than me. So it's important to practically get involved in the things do. And do not pretend you're an expert. They must know that you recognize they are better than you. But you have been given a job to coordinate them, isn't it? Because you have coordinated all the 4. So any one of them is like, maybe one of them you did that, one of them you did their job. So you may know better than them. But generally speaking, the supervisor does not know as well the details of something as a person themselves. Would you agree with me? Yeah. So, but you know, a lot of us pretend we know. That pretense is the one that will lower productivity. You remember our theme for the day is high performance, isn't it? It will be important for you to own up to the people. And that's why we are practically going down, doing it with them, and them showing you. From then onwards, it's much easier to supervise them when you know what they are doing. You understand where they are coming from. You understand the challenges. I may not know exactly the hospital challenges, but they must be the same as everywhere else. Where, because of the changes in hospital, the fact that Kijabi works like this, cottage works like this, there will be things in cottage that are different from Kijabi. Would I be right? So you need to allow the people in cottage. Don't tell them I came from a Rakan, it's a big hospital. Yes, it's big, but it's not cottage. You must allow them to teach you how things are done at cottage. In fact, my recommendation is for the past 3 months, don't change anything. Do it their way. Once you understand it, you now can tell them, I know you do it this way, but if you did it this way, would it be wrong? Because you now understand where they are, and you know a better method. Now that you have shown them respect, they are also going to listen to you, isn't it? And now you move productivity. That's really what we are talking about when Jesus is going down in the water in order to demonstrate that he can do what he's asking them to do. He is asking them to go and be servants of the world. Look, I can do it myself. So that's something you have to ask yourself, and it's a very, very important thing to understand about our leadership. That we are saying, I'm not special, I am just one of you. I'm one among equals. But I have a job to coordinate you. And if I don't coordinate you properly, we will not be able to produce. So please allow me to coordinate you. I know you may be better than me, but allow me to coordinate you. So, and I'll be talking about it in the afternoon, the importance of agreeing what is to be done rather than issuing edicts and orders to people. It's important that they participate in agreeing how things are done. Next, brother, read that loudly. Oh, then you not only come closer, you take over this chair. Please allow him to sit here. I know you came late, so I'm promoting you.
Leaders treat all in team as equally important? No, said Peter, you shall never wash my feet. Jesus answered, unless I wash you, you have no part with me. Then, Lord, Simon Peter replied, not just my feet, but my hands and my head as well. Jesus answered, a person who has had a bath needs only to wash his feet. His whole body is clean, and you are clean, though not every one of you. For he knew who was going to betray him, and that was why he said, not everyone was clean.
You see, the thing that will make you not a servant leader is when you serve one person and you don't serve the other one. That's what we are doing. People say, there must be something they are doing with that girl. How come he's always helping her and does not help me? Yeah, we need to find out what is the relationship between them. You are creating a whole thing because of partiality. Jesus was different. He was saying, whether you are called Apostle Peter, whoever you want to be called, I'm washing everybody. Peter says, not me. Allow my master to wash me? No. Then he was told, if I don't wash you, you have nothing to do with me. Now that's the philosophy a servant leader takes. The philosophy of Jesus. Treating people the same. Because it's too risky to create precedents. If, for example, somebody's child is sick and you allow them to go off, you have just created a precedent in future. Whoever gets sick, whoever child gets sick, you must give them permission. Otherwise, you have to openly share what is different with this particular one. You give permission. That's not true of others. In other words, it's not that the child got sick. It's that the child got sick and housemaid also got sick at the same time. So now, if you want me to apply this to you, is your house girl also sick? But if you cannot start giving yourself power, and people think they have the power, I'm the boss, I can do what I want. Do whatever you want to the destruction of your own department. You see, you have the freedom. Nobody will fire you. You stay there. But you are creating challenges for your own working relationship. So Peter was told, no, you must be treated the same way. Obviously, sometimes it's pretty difficult. But that should be the philosophy. Because then people see, when people understand that you will treat them the same way, helps. When I left Kisumu, I became district manager in Nairobi. And I was dealing with Asians, the owners of tankers. One tanker is something like 15 million. This long tanker. So you know anybody with a transporter must be a millionaire. Even if he has only one truck. So these are rich people. When they came, when I came, I was young, I was not yet 40 when I became district manager. And so everybody is coming to my office. And they are offering me bribes. The first one came, and I said, you know, I'm a Christian. Ever heard of people say they are Christian? I'm one of them. We don't take abuse. But rest assured, your contract is okay. I'll serve you. I'm paid to serve you. I'll serve you. Another one came. Another one came. Another came. I think it's a way of, they are welcome. They don't know another language of welcome except through bribes. And they were feeling very threatened. Because to refuse bribe means his contract is in trouble. That's what he understood. It took a lot of effort of treating transporters the same way for them to understand with Inanna, you don't have to give him anything. Even the guy you thought is his friend, his vehicle's contract has been cancelled. So he has no friend. I know I affected one of the transporters who was thought to be my friend. I affected his contract. And he actually came, said, surely, you are their friends. How can you treat me like that? Because he expected, although here he is a Christian, so he's not giving any bribes. But he's not even friendship. No! Unless you want to destroy your department, you cannot use then friendship. It doesn't have to be money, even friendship. People must be treated the same way, so that they gain confidence. The moment they gain confidence, people stop offering me bribes. I was no longer struggling with them because they felt confident. Many years later, I was in a aerobic club and I was talking with a friend of mine who had flown from the US, one of my boyhood friends settled in the US, and he had come and we were talking there. Then after some time, because he was sleeping there, I left him. One of my former CEOs had come and greeted us. So when I left, he came and said, "Oh, John left, yes. You have a good friend," he told me, according to what he told me. You know, he told him the story of how, now we are all retired, how one of the Somali transporters asked him where I was. And he says, he's the only person you knew. He is not refusing your bribe in order to fire you. He is refusing your bribe because he doesn't take bribes. In fact, the guy, the foreign union was flying to the airport, told me, "I don't want to fly before I tell you the comment I got from your former boss." Of course, we are all retired. The comments will not help me or do anything. But the important thing is, it meant the Somali transporters had come to where they believed I would look after their contract. So it's much easier. I still remember just about the time I was retiring, 07, when they started banning tankers. And I was retiring. I was born in 1952, so you can tell I was 55, 07. And the company had to recall me back because there was a crisis. Because the transporters did not, if your vehicle is banned, the insurance doesn't cover. You know that. So, it required a lot of persuasion for transporters to agree to go to the road. It required me to take the phone and give them assurance and tell them they are taking a risk. Not for Shell, they're taking a risk for God. Because the hospitals have run out of gas, have run out of fuel. It means the theaters are not working. People are coming with arrows. And the theater can't work. People will die. And what is causing it? Oil companies, lack of availability of fuel and gas. That's what I was able to say. The Shell vehicles were the first one to land in Kampala. Because by that time Kaguta Museveni had run Kibaki. Because Uganda was running completely out of fuel. Remember, they were uprooting the railway in Kibera. You remember? So there was a problem. And it is the fact that transporters trust me, we are friends, that they are willing to take a risk and can understand I'm not joking with the name of God. When I tell them they are serving God when they are doing it. So my friend, if you're not, please don't trust me. Trust is not a mentioned word. You have to earn trust. And you earn trust when it's clear you don't have favorites among the people you work with. You have to treat them. That means if somebody does wrong and they are punished, even the other one, when they do the same thing, they'll also be punished. You can't punish one guy because you don't like it. And the one you like does exactly the same thing. But let people not ask him. You are the boss. But from then onwards, they don't trust you. Jesus was teaching us to be a servant leader will be very important that you hold everybody in the team equally important. Next, read that one.
Leader takes Christ as his example. Christ's leadership has worked. Copy it. You call me teacher and Lord, and rightly so, for that is what I am. Now that I, your Lord and teacher, have washed your feet, you also should wash one another's feet. I have set you an example that you should do as I have done for you.
So what you're then saying is, Jesus was boss or bosses. He was God. How did he deal with the people? Did he say, "Don't you know I'm God? Don't you know I'm God"? No. Even when Pilate says, they say you are so and so, he said, you say I am. Remember the story, of course we have gone through Easter, so you remember the story, isn't it? So it's important to get to where you understand the example of Jesus. You know, servant leadership is very, very important. You can come and help us get the next one. We want to compare management and leadership. Here I'm saying serving in subordinates does not make you less of a leader. Now, let's just move over to the one on management. Management versus we already have it. Does somebody have an example of a supervisor who worked as a servant leader?
Send them.
Not in cottage, but where you worked before.
Take a photo.
And you give us an example. That I worked with somebody who was a servant leader. Not in cottage, somewhere else. You have never met a servant leader. We are talking theory. Okay, you don't have to have worked. Do you have a prefect in high school who was a servant leader? Do you have a parent who was a servant leader, or a grandparent who was a servant leader? An example of somebody who was supposed to be a boss but operated from the servant leadership philosophy. Give us an example to help us to know that this thing is doable. You are trying to think of one. Is he coming to your Brongata? He's coming. I give you a few more moments. Oh, go ahead, go ahead. Let me sit and hear.
I would maybe say I have worked with, I've worked with somebody who is a servant leader.
Yeah.
He's a fundi, and he's from Mikono Kata. But how he operates, everything they are doing, he knows how to do that, to do it. So, and I've seen the end result is always perfect. Yeah,
so you saw him produce some work, and you watched the way he was treating his subordinates, and you could see this as a servant leader, not a boss. And the product came out very well.
it has always come out very well.
Oh, it's, you are still in touch with him even now?
Yeah.
Okay. Is he your relative?
No.
Okay.
Yeah.
Somebody else? Another example? Yes?
I had my former deputy principal. So she had, you see, the way deputies are perceived to be very...
They're in charge of discipline.
Yes. In fact, she was a discipline mistress also.
Yeah.
But it's like she had a club of the naughtiest girls in the school. So she used to deal with those students very differently. I was actually one of them. In Form 1.
We are learning.
In Form 1.
Yes.
But, so she could actually make the most notorious guy and can find a prefect. No, she makes that lady to be a prefect so that when she comes, we were responsible. So she made me a compound captain in Form 2, and that was not something that was normal.
And you knew you did not qualify?
No, I was not supposed to. But, so I saw my performance improve very.
Just by being a responsible girl.
Yes. And most of us, actually, she couldn't just go pick the best she used to pick those you would think, "Ay, kwa nini huyo sasa?" And most of those girls are now big people in big places. We are still in contact with them.
So as I'm talking here, you keep remembering your deputy headmistress.
Yes.
It works. Thank you. Those are the examples I want. Anyone more? Now I want to come generally to talk about leadership versus management, and I'll not spend too much time on it. But the two are different. But the two are required. If you have only leaders without managers, there's a risk. And if you have managers without leaders, again you have a risk. And so my suggestion is every supervisor listening to me should try to be both. Are we together? We are saying you try to be both. And let me tell you that many things that, especially working where you are dealing with volunteers, you need to think of yourself as a leader. A manager is a person with the authority over others to achieve results. A manager is a person who has authority over others to receive results. A leader is a person who doesn't have to have authority but has influence over others to receive results. So the currency of leadership is influence. The currency of management is authority and power. And that's the major difference. If you are a manager, you must have some power, because basically people listen to you, wapende wasipende, because they know which side their bread is buttered. So they have to do what you're saying. They may not agree with you, may not admire you, but they have to do. That's a manager. A leader totally loses. The moment they don't trust you, the moment you have no influence, you're not a leader. Because leadership is influence. And you cannot, if you don't have influence, you are going to end up without any leadership achievement of your own. And so we are suggesting you go beyond management to leadership. I don't think we have the time to do exercise. We did it earlier. Now the next person can read that. Loudly.
What is the difference between management and leadership? The biggest difference between managers and leaders is the way they motivate the people who work or follow them, and this sets the tone for most other aspects of what they do. Many people, by the way, are both. They have management jobs, but they realize you cannot buy hearts, especially to follow them down a difficult path, and so act as leaders too.
So you have a task that is risky, that is difficult to do. Once you are using authority and power, people are likely to follow you there. They will resign. But if you follow leadership, they trust you. And they do not think you can take them something, they will not die. So they are willing to take the risk. That's why there are certain things, especially when you're talking about risky things and difficult things, you can only get things done when people trust you, when you are a leader, not necessarily a manager. So the biggest thing between managers and leaders is the way you motivate the people who work or follow you. So that will be how do you deal with them? How do you get them to do the things that you are talking about? The next person, read that.
By definition, managers have subordinates unless their title is honorary and given as a mark of seniority, in which case the title is a misnomer and their power over others is other than formal authority.
So if you're a manager, your job description must clearly show you are responsible for certain people. So the people who work with you are called subordinates. And a subordinate means somebody who can be accused of insubordination. If he doesn't do what you tell him to do, it is called insubordination. And it can be a cause of discipline or even dismissal. Would you agree with me? Yeah. In fact, the reason why private sector performs better is because in government circles, instead of dismissing you, they transfer you. Am I right? But in private sector, the only way is to be fired. So now, people don't suffer from impunity because they know the manager will act on them. And there's nothing much they can do about it. But that is management. Read that one next.
Managers have a position of authority. Authoritarian transactional style. Managers have a position of authority vested in them by the company and their subordinates. Work with them and largely do as they are told. Management style is transactional. In that the manager tells the subordinate what to do, and the subordinate does this not because they are blind robot, but because they have been promised a reward. And to bracket a minimum, at minimum, their salary for doing so.
So, if you are a manager, you must have the ability to affect my salary. If you can't affect my salary, I will not necessarily obey you. So, that's what we are saying. Management, you motivate the people through transaction. Scratch my back and I scratch, you are back. If you do this for me, I'll give you a bonus. If you do this for me, I'll not fire you. If you do this for me, that's who a manager is. So, the moment a subordinate finds a better job in terms of salary, are they going to stay with you? They're only with you because of salary. So they'll get salary just a few thousand shillings above yours, and they are gone. And that is something that you have to think about. Who is the next?
Managers focus on work. Managers are paid to get things done, often within tight constraints of time and money. Thus, they thus naturally pass on this work focus to their subordinates. They are subordinates too.
Yeah, you are a manager, but you have a boss, isn't it? So, if you are using management rather than leadership mode, what that means of necessity, and that's what we are trying to say there, your focus is work, because you are paid for work. So for you, anybody who is not performing, the only way the door is out, isn't it? You are not interested in the people. And I know there is a strain between, there are people who are called task managers and other people called people managers. Task managers are people who are so taken by the task, they ignore the person. But people managers are so taken by the welfare of the person, they forget the task. Neither the task manager nor the people manager is a good manager. On a continuum, you must find the middle ground. Are we together? So ask yourself, what kind of supervisor are you? Are you so interested in the task that you don't care about the person? My boss kept telling me, the same boss I was talking about, Mr. Maliki, the other people who left the university in the 60s, we left the university in the 70s. And he tells me, by the time they came out, everybody with a supervisory role was a Mzungu. So he says, he still talks about getting married, they were about to get a child. Then he asked they were in Kericho somewhere, visiting the customers around the tea estates. And he told his boss, you know, my wife is getting a child, I need to go to Nairobi. The wife was a teacher in Nairobi. And Mzungu looked at him and said, did I employ your wife? No, and dismissed him. Yeah, he told that story until he retired. are you task manager, isn't it? We came here to work. You are getting benefits, what has that got to do with it? But you see, if they did not meet other people who are more human, you would have resigned from the company. Because you don't want to work for a company that doesn't care about you. Are we together? So you need to know very well. If you're a manager, for sure you'll get your task done. But the people hate you. The people have malicious obedience. Remember malicious obedience? That's what you are trying to get yourself to do when you are using that issue of work focus. So you must, again, of course, you can't be a people manager who doesn't care whether the task is completed. You're only interested in the people. So someone says, you know, my mother is not feeling well. Take your leave. Or you know, my uncle also suffered a knee problem. Go and leave. Within no time, the hospital is closed, isn't it? That's a person who doesn't care about work. Only cares about the people. So you need to create a middle ground where you can tell somebody, sorry, I know you should go and leave, but please look up, just suggest to me how the work will go on when you are away. So you involve them into it. Then they say, sorry, I'll not go this time. I'm going to send the money. Because even themselves they can see it is not easy for them to go. Then you tell them, that's a man who is this. Work. You came here to work. So you get the message. You don't care about them. There was a bishop, so you don't have these my examples are about industry. There was a bishop who was meeting a pastor. And the pastor got a telephone call. This is not too long ago. Got a telephone call, and the call said the mother had died. So the bishop is still waiting for him to finish the call, and they continue talking. So the pastor said, that phone said my mother has died. Oh, sorry. Now, like we were saying, and they went on with the discussion. You think that person will stay in that church again? No, and that's a bishop who thinks that somebody can be told the mother is dead, and they continue talking. Now, obviously the work will get done, but the quality of the work, the volume of the work, and how long that person works is determined as to whether you care. People don't care what you know until they know you care for them. You get the point? People don't care what you know until they know you care about them. And that's really the thing you need to understand. It's not your throughout the day. If so because you are employed to work, I am agreeing with you. Work must be done. But how that work is done depends on how interested you are on the workers. And that's understood. Of course, I need to keep correcting myself. It doesn't mean that you are a ruffian to continue malingering. You know these people who kill their mother, they get leave. Then they kill another mother, and they get leave. When they kill that one, you say, sure, how many mothers did you have? Because he forgot the other time he still had talked about the mother. Now, so let's be clear. We are not suggesting that you work, allow them to ride over you. But if you can establish a genuine problem, the minimum you can do is show sympathy for the person in what they are. The better thing is to be empathetic, not sympathetic. And once you're empathetic, you'll be suggesting things that can be done to help with the problem. So there's focus, but most managers, their focus is work. With the next read.
Managers ability this. An interesting thing about managers is that they tend to come from stable home backgrounds and relatively normal and controllable lives. This leads them to relatively risk averse, and they will seek to avoid conflict where possible. In terms of people, they generally like to plan and actively shift.
Okay. Are you getting the message? That the manager is more interested in routine. So he is interested in work getting done. He hardly is thinking about, he is not the owner. He is hardly thinking of this thing 30 years from now. So they are thinking more of what's happening now. And therefore, they don't want to take risks. And unfortunately, you cannot grow without taking risks. You can see why you need to have the leadership thing. Next person, I think we are across now with you. Now we are talking about leaders.
Maybe I can read from here.
Yes?
I'm saying I can read.
Yes, please go ahead. Hey,
leaders,
you are about to really impress us if you read properly.
but leaders are followers, not subordinates. I hope I'm clear.
Very clear.
Beautiful. Leaders do not have subordinates, at least not when they are leading. Many organizational leaders do have subordinates, but only because they are also managers. But when they want to lead, they have to give up form of authoritarian control, because to lead is to have followers. The following is always a voluntary activity.
Yeah. Now we turn to, if you decide to be a leader, not a manager, you are in trouble. Your staff are no longer subordinates. What are they? Followers. And the trouble with the idea of following is power is tilted towards the follower. My friend, if you walk outside and you are my leader, I have the choice whether to follow or not, isn't it? You keep going only to look back and find all I do. One of the leadership gurus, if you discover nobody is following, please claim you are taking a walk. So it's important to understand that, and it's very, very critical to understand that if you become a leader, you are giving the people the right to choose whether to follow. It also means you don't give instructions, you explain the vision, and people get a buy-in. But is there a difference now between the two? So you never tell somebody, hey, you must jump. You explain why they have to jump. Because you want them to jump voluntarily. Then they are followers, no? But the boss just says jump. Why? I said so. Now, once you become a leader, you don't want anybody obeying blindly. You want them to follow. And follow means decide that this thing is good enough for me to do it. This thing is good enough for me to go along. So you can see it changes your idea about things. You don't just wake up. That's why, although I'm here, I am emphasizing leadership. If the bullets are flying, you have to turn to a manager. Army generals are not leaders, they are managers. During war, you don't have them to get a buy-in. Just shoot. You don't say why. Now, by that time you have been shot yourself, isn't it? You'll be dead. So you shoot, even without the explanations. But surely that should be a crisis management mode. In normal work, you must avoid that idea of asking people to do things they don't understand what to do, why to do, and they don't even have the choice to contribute. Because the moment you become a leader, you are giving people opportunity to tell you, boss, you say we can do it this way, but why can't we do it this other way? And they know you will listen to them. So that's really what we are talking about. The moment people understand you as a leader, they are, and I know that because when I was in Kisumu, I was the manager, and the union, petroleum union, on my case, because many junior people were working under me and they were unionized. And you don't play with the union people. They can really make your work difficult. I still remember we used to load ships in Kisumu. When I say ship, it would be less than 1 million liters, but it's still a ship. So that you'd bring, those are before pipeline went to Kisumu in the 1980s. You would bring fuel to Kisumu by rail, then pump it into a ship that can go to Tanzania or to Uganda, across the lake. But I was standing on the jetty. The jetty, you know, the ship doesn't come right up to shore. You have to walk on a jetty. And the ship was creaking. And I realized one of these days my staff will fall. And if they don't know how to swim, that's dead, isn't it? In the lake. So I came up with a project that anybody who works at the loading the ship will be trained free of charge of swimming. So I entered into a contract with a teacher. The big hotel in Kisumu is called Sunset, and asked them to go there. But these are old people. They were not going to be willing. So all I did was to call the union guy. Hey, so can you have a cup of tea? Of course, he's very happy to be treated. What do you say? He's actually very a boss. He cannot stay up. So you have to give him respect. He say, I want us to have afternoon tea. I want us to have together. So he comes, and he is now coming as a boss that he actually is. And as he is there, I start talking about that problem and asking him which is the best way of dealing with the matter. What can we do? So we come to a conclusion in that discussion. People there to be trained for swimming. So when I now call them, the whole stuff we discuss about the project. They listen, then they walk away. I overhear through the window him telling them, it was me who told you. Now, the moment they hear it is their union guy who said it, are they going to resist? No. So they were, every evening, the vehicle would carry them for swimming, for lessons. Now, if I had ordered them, they would have caught a strike, isn't it? You need to understand simply by showing them the importance. Because just what they feel it is their idea. They are the ones interested. You do it. So you make your work very hard when you just apply the boss thing rather than explaining to people and they understand what they are doing. So let's hear again. If you are a leader, do you have subordinates? No. What do you have? Followers. And that's really what you need to understand if you are going to. Next.
Charismatic transformational style. Telling people what to do does not inspire them to follow you. You have to appeal to them, showing how following them will lead to their heart's desire. They must want to follow you enough to stop what they are doing.
You are unable to read? Okay, take over.
They must want to follow you enough to stop what they are doing and perhaps walk into danger in situations that they would not normally consider risky. Leaders with a stronger charisma find it easier to attract people to their cause. As a part of their persuasion, they typically promise transformational benefits, such that their followers will not just receive extrinsic rewards, but will somehow become better people.
Yeah, so for a leader, the task is important, but they are even more serious about this process. How will it leave the staff? Will he be a better person? And so the person understands, hey, this thing I'm not just doing for the company. It's good for me. They also have people focus. Next person.
Leaders have people focus. They are always good with people and give credit to others and take blames on themselves. This is very effective at creating the loyalty that great leaders although leaders are good with people, this does not mean they are friendly with them. In order to keep the mystique of leaders, they often retain a degree of separation and aloofness. This does not mean that leaders do not pay attention to tasks. In fact, they are often very achievement focused. What they do realize, however, is the importance of encouraging others to work towards their vision.
Okay, is that clear to people about a leader and the people focus? I think I've kept mentioning it throughout. that if you are a leader, your interest is, in order to finish that task, who is best placed, how will he gain, how is this our thing, rather than thing. You know, in management, they always talk about the manager's task. In leadership, they talk about our task. The thing is to explain that if you these hours, we are doing it for us. We are not doing it for them. And that's where the motivation comes in. It will be internal. Next.
Leaders are risk-seeking, although they are not blind seekers. When pursuing their vision, they consider it natural to encounter problems and hurdles that must be overcome along the way. They are thus comfortable with risk and will see that others avoid potential opportunities for advantage and will happily break rules in order to get things done. Some bodies, since they had
Sorry. Are you there? Is that what you are reading?
some bodies, since they had either traumatic childhoods, some had problems there, such as dyslexia, others were shorter than average. This perhaps told them the independence of mind that is needed to go out on a limb and not worry about what others are thinking about.
So I think we also talked about the risk taking and why it is important. So let me ask you, as a person in charge of a project, when is a good time to play the role as a leader and when as a manager? There's something you are doing in your department. It's more of a project, not a routine thing. When do you play the role of a leader? When do you play the role of manager? Boy, what do you think? Have I been able to explain that it is true, although the leadership is what is preferred, there are times you'll be forced to do management in order to do your job. Am I clear on that? Yes. So we are looking for examples. Say something.
When I need to be a manager is when I'm planning what's to be done. And when I'm a leader, I want to do the work with the team that I have and my followers. So we work together to achieve the goals that we've been able to set.
Okay, that's one. Another one?
You want to say something?
Oh, you finally had something, okay.
The time I have to act as a leader when in charge of a project is when explaining the project to the team. I have to share with them the details of the project, what we are going to achieve, how we are going to do it, and how long.
And allow them questions.
And allow them questions to for them to get the details of the project.
Also listen to their suggestions.
Yeah, that's when I want to be a leader. But now again, I'll have to allocate some tasks to each individual to accomplish the project. That's when I'll be a manager, because I want them to achieve the results.
Okay. Were your parents most of the time managers or leaders? Give me an example of something that happened in life, in the parenting, so that you know. Don't talk about your parent, talk about your uncle. An example that your uncle was parenting as a manager rather than as a leader. Or even your own, you can give an example. But some of you are parents. You also can tell me when you have been a manager and when you have been a leader. Do you have children? I apologize. But maybe I'm predicting they will come. Do you have children? Okay. Have you ever discovered yourself being a manager? Have you ever discovered yourself being a leader as you dealt with them?
Mostly, I think I'm a manager.
Most of the time you are manager. Stop that! Why are you doing that? Didn't I tell you never to do that? And now you can see the benefit of either. Am I clear? Oh, and I think we have, I wish we had the time to hear this, discuss this. So it's an important thing to just see how God in His own way helps us to handle this. I want to stop there. All the notes are going to be given to you.
Cutting.
Sorry?
I noticed it's cutting on the margin.
Yes, but I don't know what I touched that made it.
Let's see.
Anyway, just remove it because we need to go to the next thing.
Show taskbar. You don't need to show taskbar. Display.
Tell me, which type of organization requires more leadership than others? If I'm working here, there, management doesn't work. Which are there? Can you think of something you do which feels you really need leadership skills rather than management? Sorry?
Can I try?
Yes, please.
I'm trying to think about a school where you need more management because you need to tell the students to work and learn. But for an organization where you are attending to clients, you need to be a leader so that you can participate.
The people who try to be managers to their failure are pastors. A pastor can't be a manager. He gives you absolutely nothing. And yet, you have offered yourself to be a Sunday school superintendent. And he's not having you around. You know, if you don't, I'll fire you. The earlier you fire me, the better. You know, the pastors cheat themselves that they have power and authority. But that's why you find people keep moving. Am I right? My wife says they vote with their legs. What they don't like for the pastor is saying, there are so many churches around. You're not in yours. So if a pastor understood that they have no authority and power, the only thing they have is influence. And the moment the pastor is somebody respected, work will go very well. And yes, he is paying you nothing, but you never want to have the pastor. You respect him. Are we together? I know we have run out of time, but I want to talk about how do you get. I've written a book called A Leader's Source of Influence. How can you gain this influence that causes people to follow you, to want to follow you? Because that's very important. Because the moment people have it, you will find your role magic when people have trusted you. But although I'm not going to it, let me say 3 things, and I'll be repeating them. Number 1, for people to follow you, you must know where you are going. Nobody wants to follow a fool. So you must let the people in your department gain confidence that you normally clarify issues. You are not told by the boss, run. Only to come to the run, then they ask you to where? Oh, let me go and ask. If that's the way you are, they are likely to trust you. They will rather go and ask, what did you tell our supervisor? So you lose power, isn't it? So you must have clarity of where you are going for people to follow you. Number 2, you must be trusted. Because most likely the leader is talking about going to from the area of comfort to an area they have no idea about, but you are promising wonderful things. If they can't trust you, are they likely to agree to hang themselves and take risks? No. You must work on trust. That's why you cannot even tell a white lie. No manager tell white lies. You know, they put you in a difficult position, you don't want to admit, you don't want to tell them. So you tell them a white lie. Later they discover it was a white lie. Why do I call it white? Because it's neither here nor there. but they now know you have the capacity to lie. The moment they know your capacity to lie, you have lost it. You can only be a manager. You cannot be a leader. Because people do not have, you cannot have influence on somebody you don't trust. Thirdly, you must be somebody who is admired. So it's important you know the way ahead, you are somebody trusted, you are admirable. In other words, that may require your competence, but it means they are coming. That's why I keep telling young people, it's very serious who your celeb is. Because whoever your celeb is will influence you. Even when you do something, you have an excuse. You know, you are told so and so was seen with another girl. No, they must have just been joking. Now, you do not want your celeb to have a bad name. So you are defending him. Am I right? That tells you that guy has influence on you. The best example I like giving is of the president of South Africa, the first president, African president. What was he called? Mandela. Mandela is a world icon. He has influence anywhere in the world. That's why he could tell off the American president, could tell off anybody. He had such an influence worldwide. Of course, it cost him 28 years in jail for him to gain that influence. But he had it. But do you know what influence he was when he came out? Around what he didn't like something about the lady who fought for him, for the lady. You see, you are not supposed to report on, it was against the law to report on Mandela. So the wife who used to go to Robben Island and then come and tell the world what he has said. For 28 years. He comes out and discovers the girl, he has a few problems with the girl. What does he do? He dumps his wife. Basically, people then say, no, that woman is bad. They don't even have the facts about how bad Mrs. Mandela is. But Mandela cannot be bad. It must be the wife. Then after that, as if he is that time he is 76, 78, 79, thereabout. Do you know he started moving in with another woman without a marriage? Come, we stay. You know, that's the way they started life with my what is she called? Gracia. And I said, surely, a guy of 80, behaving like a teenager. But that's what he did. They stayed together, then later they had a wedding. Now, it's such a bad example in itself. It's such a bad example that we need to ask ourselves, how could we? But have you ever had a write-up against that Mandela? Ever had anything? No, we find out, we don't talk about it. He cannot do anything wrong. So even yourself, you soon, the moment you can't criticize something, you're on one step to doing it yourself. Are we together? That's how powerful. Now, obviously, if you're a good celeb, that's okay. But that's what you want to be to your staff. You want to be a celeb, somebody they admire. Somebody who reaches the level where they know he can't lie. So when he says jump, they don't ask him why. They ask how high. But that is not something you can force on people. It has to develop. They have to see several times you are tempted to lie, yet you chose to tell them the truth against your own better judgment in order to create the trust. When they reach that level, you find it much easier. You know, one time, I was then in middle management, I was not in top management. My boss came and he said, and something had happened. He said, Nana, you know, I admire you. That's my boss saying. He said, why? You know what has happened? If it had happened to anybody else, they would have been investigating you. But you people just trust you. He used to criticize my Christianity. So I was surprised that all of a sudden, I had not thought about it. That there are people who tell, if they say, Nana, I've done something, everybody in management just dismisses it. I don't know which meeting they had come from. He said, Nana, I admire you. You know, people just trust you. If I did what you did, they'll be on my case now. Now, you don't get that by saying you are saved. You get that by consistent living in a way they trust you and admire your life. That's what you're talking about. You don't have to do the things I'm telling you, but you have just given yourself a very hard time. I finished with this, on this subject of leadership versus management. I was told the other day a friend of mine went to Israel. and they were staying in a hotel, high floor. And as he was waking up before going for breakfast from high room, he saw a farmer with his sheep. And because he had read John chapter 10, he wanted to know how Israel farmers do it. Do you know the guy, exactly like in John chapter 10, the guy went, opened the place where the sheep were, and instead of going inside, he walked, and the sheep were following him. Round the corner, he had to stop dressing, just to watch the animals following him, until they went to another place. Then he remembered that when he was growing up, he was also a shepherd. And a Kikuyu shepherd opens the place, then goes inside with a stick, and hates them until they all come out. Then hates them until where he is gracing them. By the time they reach where they are gracing, he is in pain, and the sheep are also in trouble. But he has accomplished the task. See, the sheep was to go to the other place. So you have achieved it, but you are in pain. That's the difference between management and leadership. Management will still accomplish, but the sheep will be in pain, and the shepherd will be in pain. Leadership, both of you will be smiling as you grace in the other place. The choice is yours. Let's now talk about, and we are going for lunch.
We go for lunch.
But the machine is warning you that in a few minutes it will have no power.
Oh, okay. I think I forgot to remove the charger.
Yeah.
We have an hour. We're going for lunch at 1.
Yeah.
So we have another 40 minutes.
Yeah.
So you can actually.
No, I'll handle this.
Okay.
Looked at my watch. So we have 40 minutes before lunch. So we want to ask the question. If you are so interested in failing, I want to help you to know how to fail. That's the next subject. I want to ask, why do supervisors, why do leaders fail? That's something that is important for us to do. But before then, I should keep remembering. I was a teacher almost 50 years ago, so I forget some teaching skills. Every time I should ask you, are there any questions?